Professor Gary Wolfram is the William Simon Professor of Economics and Public Policy and Director of Economics at Hillsdale College. He is also the author of A Capitalist Manifesto, Understanding the Market Economy and Defending Liberty. Thank you very much, Professor Wolfram, for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
And not only that, we should mention, because now your picture is on screen, we should mention that is it true that you're the model for the Lincoln statue out there?
It is true. It is true.
You said that to me and I cracked up, but it's like it's an excellent statue. There's an excellent Lincoln statue here. This is, by the way, I should also mention the place with the only statue of Margaret Thatcher in the Western Hemisphere. This is also true, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually, I don't have a beard, so
no, but you do look a little like that.
Don't he put it.
So you write a capitalist manifesto, which warms my heart. Just the title warms my heart. So many people are talking about socialism. Yesterday, I played a clip of Bill Maher saying, socialism, we don't want breadline socialism. We want nice socialism like they have in Scandinavia. And basically, he's talking about wealth, redistributing the wealth of capitalism. Why are these people wrong?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is, if you're concerned about the poor, then you really should be for capitalism. Ludwig von Mises in 1927 wrote a book called Liberalism in the Classical Tradition, and he argued and made it very clear that the only system that can create wealth for the masses is market capitalism. And so it's obvious that is the case, because I can just ask you, if you're going to be born in any country that you want, you can tell me where you want to be born, and I'm going to say, oh, and by the way, you're going to be the poorest person there. You're not going to say, oh, I want to be in Venezuela. I want to be in I want to be the poorest person in North Korea. And so just intuitively, we know that. Also, if you look at the Index of Economic Freedom and the Economic Freedom of the World Index, these two indices that Heritage puts out, one of them, and the Fraser Institute puts out another, you can look at the countries that are in the top 25% of economic freedom and the countries in the bottom 25% of economic freedom. And then if you look at what the bottom 10% of the income distribution earn or receive, in the top 25% of freedom, you're 11 times wealthier than you are in the bottom 25%. So cross-sectionally, we can see, yes, it is clear that market capitalism is the best system for the poor. Now, we could look at it historically as well. And when did we end up with the lowest income people actually having enough to eat? It's when we got out of feudalism, we got out of mercantilism. We had hundreds of years of feudalism, which is essentially what the socialists would like you to have. In fact, Hayek's book, 1944 book, was called The Road to Serfdom. And so you went hundreds of years with no economic growth, no innovation. Why are you wealthier today than the King of England in 1263? Not because you have more tapestries than he did, but rather you have all sorts of things that he never had, including indoor plumbing, which is very nice to have in February in Michigan. And so what caused that? Innovation. So what drives innovation? What drives innovation is a reward for being successful. And my mom never once said, I'm old enough that she never once said, gee, I can hardly wait for the next Soviet washing machine to come out because it's going to be so much better, right? You know, if there's an innovation, you know where it's coming from. It's coming from a market capitalist system. And the primary reason is because it rewards you for taking on the risk of innovation. Innovation requires risk. You're not innovative if you're just doing what everybody else was doing.
Well, let me stop you for a second. Yesterday, I said I played this Bill Maher clip, and what he pointed to was a chart of the happiest countries. And traditionally, I mean, this happens all the time. The happiest countries are in Scandinavia. Now, Bill Maher thinks the Scandinavian countries are socialist, and they're not. But they do have massive redistribution. I mean, they do have massive taxes and a lot of redistribution of wealth. Is he wrong that is conducive to happiness overall?
Well, first of all, he is in fact wrong that these are socialist countries. If you look again at the Fraser Institute's index, Economic Freedom of the World Index, you'll see that they rank very high, because it's not a matter of the government controlling who owns the property. It's not a matter of the government telling you what you're going to do, like or what you can't do. You can't have trans fats in your French fries because some of the important people that went to the benevolent dictator school know that it's better for you to not have that. They do redistribute, but notice that the real issue is, when does the redistribution become a right? Notice that if there was a movie, Cinderella Man, where the boxer has to go and get some money from welfare, but when he gets his check from the fight, he pays it back, right? He gets back in line and pays it back. So your attitude is, okay, we have the social safety net, which Hayek, even in The Road to Serfdom, said you may have to have a social safety net because otherwise people would be afraid to be free. But when the attitude is, which happened in the Great Society, that these are entitlement programs, once they become the idea these are entitlement programs, then that attitude starts to change. And so a lot of it also has to do with the cultural dynamic. But what these Scandinavian countries are finding out is, as more people that are from different cultures come in, they're finding that this is a much harder thing to administer. So it's possible. I think that, I actually, if you Google Gary Wolfram Scrooge, you'll see actually an article that I wrote a number of years ago about Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And the main point was, at the beginning, his nephews come in and want him to contribute.
Right.
And what he says is not bah humbug. What he says is, are there no poorhouses? And he goes on for 2 paragraphs about, didn't you tell me that the government was supposed to be taking care of these poor people? Why are you asking me?
Yep.
So altruism is what happens when you have market capitalism. It doesn't happen when you have the government taking care of everybody, because I'm not being philanthropic when I take your stuff and give it to the person whose house burned down. I should be giving my own stuff to them.
So what about the buzzword on the left is inequality? And, if you listen to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people are starving in the streets and living in their cars, and America is just an absolute burned out hulk of its former self. But is there a problem with inequality? I mean, there's certainly, I certainly know that the richest person in America is way, way richer than I am. And is that a problem?
No, in fact, we want inequality. That is one of the foundations of classical liberalism, is that you're going to be rewarded if you produce things. Now, think about, how do you get rich in a market system? The only way you can get rich, because it's a system of voluntary exchange, is for you to please other people. Right. Right. When Henry Ford wanted Edsel Ford to be a car, wanted the Edsel to be a car to be a tribute to his son, nobody wanted to buy the thing. He couldn't force people to buy the Edsels, but nobody wanted to pay the cost of the resources needed to make it. The only way I can get wealthy in a market system is to please other people. I tell my students, look, in the Bible it says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In a market system, that's not good enough. You got to do unto others things they don't even know they want done to them yet, right? I didn't know I was going to want an iPhone for my wife, 10 years ago.
Oh, okay, now here's, let me be the devil's advocate here. Obviously, history shows you're right about this. I mean, history shows that capitalist countries rise, they innovate, they create these things. But in doing so, there does create this world in which some people are really rich and some people are not so rich. If you have something like healthcare, which is now becoming more and more sophisticated, more and more expensive, and can do more and more, so that people actually can live through diseases that used to kill them like that, does the poor man have any kind of an argument? It's not fair that my child, this is the argument, it's not fair that my child should not have this health care simply because I have no money. My child has a right to this health care. Is he wrong?
Well, yes. I mean, where are these rights? See, if you say you have the right to health care, then you've said that someone is required to provide it for you.
Yeah.
And so what we really, I mean, healthcare is a very interesting issue because the government has been running healthcare at least since World War II.
Yeah.
I say to my students, when you're taking somebody out to dinner, when do you tell them that you're picking up the tab? And the answer is after they've ordered, right? Think how Medicare works, or think how Medicaid works. The way it works is not only are they telling the waiter, not only telling you they're picking up the tab, they're telling the waiter they're picking up the tab. So what am I driven to do in terms of research and put my resources? I should invest my resources not in something which is an inexpensive way of improving someone's health condition. It's to make something that's really super expensive that Medicare will pay for. Yeah. In fact, you've probably seen the ad on television for the scooter. Interestingly enough, it never says how much it costs. If you get on their website, which I have done, it never tells you how much it costs. It tells you that what? They'll make sure that Medicare or your insurance will pay for it.
Right.
And so what we really need to do on the healthcare system is to switch it to essentially what are health savings accounts, and that would drive down the cost of all this healthcare. There are all sorts of reasons. You know, why is insulin so expensive? Well, it's so expensive because it costs $7 billion to come to bring it to the consumer. So there's lots of things that we need to do in the healthcare system. But it is a system where, the left tends to pretend that this is somehow a market economy system. It's not.
Yeah.
It is dominated by the government.
I have to stop you there. I'm out of time. That really was incredibly clear. And, people at Hillsdale are lucky. The students here are lucky. Professor Gary Wolfram, his book is A Capitalist Manifesto, which I'm now going to read. A Capitalist Manifesto, Understanding the Market Economy and Defending Liberty. Thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.